Well, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to today's live market update and charts of the day. I hope you had a great weekend. Wonderful to see you here as always. Just let me know you can hear and see me okay in the chat area, and I will move things forward. Just a little disclaimer to show you to start with, of course. Uh, Really important that you take heed of this. Of course, we are delivering this for educational purposes only. Please make sure that you do your own due diligence on anything that you see or hear. Make sure that you follow trading plans, of course, manage risk with every trading action. Let's get into it then without any further ado in terms of the nuts and bolts of today. There we go. So we'll look at what's coming across the news wires. Markets were mixed on Friday, but remained near record highs. I think the Nasdaq was the outperformer again as continuation of good feeling relating to the news that Nvidia and AMD have been given the nod to export semiconductors to China. Trump continues to take aim at Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, as the prospect of an interest rate cut looks even in doubt for September, with around about a 50% likelihood of it happening. Earnings season ramps up after a positive start. We've had around about 12% of the S&P 500 reporting so far, and a staggeringly good 83% have beaten EPS expectations. There is also some evidence of tariff globally. If we look at some of the data that's come over the wires over the last couple of weeks, um, this is it's going to be interesting over the next month or so. Particularly, of course, as we do get that August the 1st deadline, where many of these tariffs to the Eurozone, to Mexico, 30%, and of course, copper at 50%, which we've talked about before, all come into effect. Then, of course, not far after that, we've got the China 90-day pause. I think it's the 8th of August that comes to an end. So we'll see what happens with that. Of course, what's of interest to us today is how things are going. US futures are fairly mixed so far. Um, Slightly to the upside when I last looked, but we'll have a look at that in a moment. Asian markets are mixed. The Chinese and the Hang Seng markets are slightly to the upside. The ASX is getting belted a little bit. The Nikkei is closed. ASX is down around 1%. When last I looked, it was only the energy sector in positive territory out of the 11. And European futures are also pointing to a cautious open this afternoon. In the FX world, the US dollar index did have some strength in the early part of last week, but just paused towards the back end of the week. We'll have a look at charts of all of these in a moment, of course. Gold remains range bound just below that 3360 key level that we talked about last week. And copper had a strong day on Friday towards those record highs again uh, um, on the back of this tariff-induced rally. And all is trading mid-range beneath the 200 MA. Bitcoin is in a short-term range. Again, we'll have a look at a chart in a moment. Just beneath that 120,000 record close. Um, as well as earnings and trade news, of course, which will continue to dominate headlines. There's not much key data coming out this week. It's generally a quiet week. We've had some Kiwi CPI came out this morning, which is fairly soft, and of course, we've got the we've got the PMI numbers coming out on Thursday. Absolutely, I'm glad that you're all living in paradise. Good call, Ellis. Um, yeah, it's the preliminary numbers for both manufacturing and services PMI. So that will be interesting to see. Expectations are fairly mixed on that. Um, the world remains cautious in terms of the potential for economic growth. Um, Quickly screenshot the Nasdaq futures there. Sorry, the futures generally there. You can see the US futures are slightly to the upside. The European futures are soft. Some buying coming into oil. Gold is pretty neutral, likewise with copper. And on the FX front, the yen is showing a little bit of strength as well. Let's have a look at some charts. Um, let's just do a little transition there. Where we go, it should pop up. There we go. We're all good to go. And we'll have a little foray around these, of course. Here's the NASDAQ daily chart. You can see on your screen right now that record high close on Thursday on the futures contract. A little flat on Friday, but the fact that it remained at that point is fairly positive. We'll look at the 30-minute chart. And you can see we're not actually that far from retesting those highs that we hit on Friday. So watch for 23,155 as a level of interest to the upside. If we look at the US dollar index, we talked about potentially breaking out of this downwards trend channel that we drew on the chart last week. You can see that bounce there. We're in a short-term range at this stage between these 2 points, these upper two light blue lines. You can see we're fairly mid-range. As for gold, well, gold is, as I said, up challenging that 3360 level. Positive day Friday, positive day today. Not far off at all. If you trade in the short term, perhaps looking for a breach of 3362 would offer some technically key level. But you can see the appetite to take it up and over there is somewhat diminished over the last couple of hours. But it looks fairly solid within these two lines at this stage, with 3347 to the downside, 3362 to the upside. So watch those two levels throughout the day. That could be interesting. We reference copper. You can see copper there is up again today in Asia after a good move on Friday. This is the record close here on the futures contract, which looks at 562.5. Looks like the level to keep an eye on. But as you can see there, some buying again in Asia, just a little pullback from a test of that level over the last 40 minutes or so. So look for a breach of that high that we hit earlier in the morning on that price surge there. That was on the back of um, China keeping its rates on hold. I think that news may have helped copper up a little. Oil is very mid-range. You can see it's using the 200 MA as the resistance there, just around about $69. So nothing to see here really in terms of a trading opportunity unless we get a breach either side of this range. Bitcoin, however, is holding on to this support at around about 116,600, near the bottom of that range, but you can see it's tested that multiple times now over the last seven trading days. So it's looking okay, but in terms of an opportunity here, I'm not seeing much of one. Potentially those of you who scalp could look for 119,000 to 120 perhaps if we breach this high from Friday. But of those major asset classes, really it's copper that's looking the most interesting, and potentially just keep an eye on gold too. Onto the FX world, let's look at some of the key crosses. As we said, the yen's looking a bit strong today. We did see a gap down initially, but moved back to the upside over the last, oh well, really since open. That's very mid-range. I'm not really excited about that at all. If we look at the Euro USD on the hourly chart again, a typical Monday morning for FX really. It's not showing us a great deal to get excited about. Again, for those of you who trade very short-term timeframes, there is a potential short-term range here on the euro, 116.14 to the downside and 116.32 to the upside. But really, the major opportunity, I'm just going to raise this actually. I'll give it a little more space. I don't see a key opportunity to the downside of any note, but if we do breach 116.40, we've possibly got 20 pips back up to test this key level here. You can see this was support from the 10th through to the 15th of July. So we could make our way back up there, but again, quite a way off at this stage to be testing that. The best that could be said is a potential bounce off support at 116.14. As for the Aussie yen, really significant gap downwards again with that yen strength. You can just see it's waning a little bit. It's pulling back down, creating almost like a symmetrical triangle that uh, that really looks like a market in indecision. It's going to be very hard to find very hard to find an FX of note. Let's just check out the Canadian dollar yen. Again, very similar story. Yen strength early on. Now we're in a sort of symmetrical triangle. About the Swiss yen. Again, the same story. We're seeing this time and time again. Let's look outside the yen crosses maybe then, and maybe check out the GB pound Aussie, which does look interesting on the 30-minute chart. You can see we've been in this downward trend channel really for Thursday or back end of Thursday on Friday. We've got what looks like a reverse head and shoulders here back through the 200 MA on the 30-minute chart. So this sort of looks quite interesting. Maybe look for a level around about that 206.31, a possible move up to 206.59. So around about a 28 pip move on the GB pound Aussie to the upside should we breach 206.31. And let's just check out the Euro Aussie. Excuse me. Again, similar sort of story. We've got a level there around about 178.80. Possible move up to 179.30. That's not a bad move, actually. That's possibly better, but we may get a pause here around about 179. So that's probably the higher probability trade. I move through 179 up to 179.35. Just a quick peek at the Euro Kiwi, which does look interesting. We're in a short-term range here. Again, we can see um, some weakness early on in the Kiwi as we saw the Euro move up quite significantly, but we are stuck in a range again. 195.67. That might be worth a nudge. Um, Again, it's not imminent, but we might see if we should breach 195.68, we could see a move up to 196. You can see that prove to be resistance back here on the 16th and 17th, respectively. But I think of all of those charts, maybe I'm going to plant my flag in the Euro Aussie. It's certainly not for now. But if we do breach 179 and move up to 179.47, could be on the cards. That's going to be my FX chart of the day. Slim pickings on the ASX, I'm afraid, today. Um, However, there are a couple of outstanding ones. Lithium stocks appear to be very strong again. We talked, they were last week. We'll come back to JPM actually. Also, Life 360, you can see Life 360 up. Let's make sure this is, there we go. You can see it's up again today after this breach of that resistance last week. We talked about this on Thursday, and it's continued its move upwards. There's where it was on Thursday. We like this chart a lot then, and it's moved up to around about 37.40 and top half of the candle so far today. So that looks interesting. We'll check in on that again. Megaport, just keep an eye on this 1454 level. That could be of interest. Now, Vulcan, we talked about last week. It's retesting a level, really significant bounce off this support at 345. Certainly, we saw the high the week before last. Um, Pretty well sold off and stuck at the bottom of the range. So if we do get breach this range, let's say $4 as a nice round number, then possibly a move up to around about 427, which must be about 5%. As for Liontown is surging. You can see that significant move today over this level around about 94. Looks like we are trading around about 98. We're missing a candle or two here, I think. There we go. Yes, we are. So we saw that surge on Friday, follow through today. I like this at $1. If we just put that on there, let's just put $1 on here. There we go. So you can see there, pushing hard against this nice round number, potential move up should the buying continue into lithium to around about 122. That could be a nice medium-term hold there. That's going to be difficult to beat. Let's just try and do it with. We'll have a quick look at PLS as well. So you can see here we're retesting highs. You'd actually put it there, wouldn't you? But I think I moved it up there because of this support here. So this move, whichever way you slice it through, around about 169 looks significant. Got follow through today. Um, it just looks less clean than potentially Liontown, although Pilbara Minerals is a more significant company in the lithium space, arguably. If you like PLS, then that might be the level to keep an eye on, around about 182, and then a potential move up to around about 195. That would be a very healthy return in these markets of around about 7%. And Parenti, another stock that we've liked a lot over the weeks, and you can see here, there was the last level that we liked. We suggested it might get up to 182. It looks as though it's on its way. Trend continuation here in play with a breach of this level here. If we can hold it, that's also one keep on your radar. But in terms of charts of the day, I like Liontown. I'm going to make that my ASX chart of the day for today. Okay, just a couple quick foray into the US, and let's just check in on a couple that we've been tracking. Okay, so we saw a breach of 330 and potentially with Tesla. This was the trade we were looking at. I suggested that a possible bounce or of 300 would be possible, a 10% move up to 330. Now we're challenging this. This is the next level. Just keep an eye on this because this is very strong. Cam will be delighted, as you know, for those of you at part of Next Bar. Um, but you can see there, possible move up to around about 360 should we breach 330. Really worth keeping your eye on. We liked the airlines last week, but Delta got stuck. This is an earnings bump, and then we got stuck under 58.21. So the market still needs some convincing that this is worth pushing higher, but certainly again worth keeping on your radar. And Microsoft was I was jumping up and down with enthusiasm on the breach of $500 there. You can see that is good. And then let's have a look at the two biggies, the two big stories from last week, both of which just coming off a little bit there. AMD, this was one we were watching early part of last week on a breach of 145, suggested move up to possibly 160. But the one, as you know, that I keep on referencing is Nvidia, which is down slightly in extended hours trading, but continues to move up. And as I said, as a medium-term holder, I wouldn't be surprised to see this tackle 200 in the next 3 months. So that's what I had to share with you today. We've deliberately stayed away from the internet, but I'm still working on making that a little smoother. So bear with me on that one. I'll put up some pictures as we go. Inner Circle this week is obviously on Wednesday, as always, still streaming. Of course, at this stage, we are looking at having a relook at how you can use AI for trading development. That's not just developing the aids, but also, generally speaking, like trade planning, value, performance evaluation, all that sort of stuff. So that should be a great session to pop along to tell your mates, and hopefully they'll pop along. Thank you to everybody who said hello through the session today. To Doug, to Rob, to Lita, to Wayne, of course, and everybody else, Ellis as well. Um, Always appreciated that you pop in a little message there. And so thank you very much for that. We'll see you again very soon. And obviously, if not before, we'll see you back on Thursday's session. You guys take care, trade safe, and we'll see you again soon. Have an enjoyable rest of the day. Bye bye for now.